Alrighty, so the curtain has come down in terms of the 27 season in Major League Soccer and in the 2023 MLS season. And well, in this MLS Cup 2023 was nowhere as crazy as what we saw last year in MLS Cup, which, for anyone that watched MLS Cup last year, you know that we will never see a game as crazy as what we saw in the game between the Philadelphia Union versus LAFC. But what I will say about this game is that it definitely got interesting late in this game. And if you were a Columbus Crew fan, my oh my, that last 15 minutes and the 7 minute of stoppage time felt like they had to wait an entire season before finally lifting the MLS Cup for the second time in 4 years. But when you look at this game, Columbus deserved to win this one. I mean, they were by far the better team in this game, and that's kind of been the case for the Columbus Crew. They have been the better team in pretty much all of the games that they play in the playoffs, and it's only fitting that they finish it off in a game where we also said that this was a game where Wilfred Nancy, he's gonna live and die by the way that he plays and the way that he plays even against an LAFC team that knows how to hit teams on the transition. It worked to a beauty. And in the first half, as I mentioned, as expected, Columbus had most of the possession. They were dictating the play while LAFC was trying to hit on the transition, which they had no answer to try to do so in the first half. In fact, 7 minutes in, the first shot of MLS Cup did see Diego Rossi's shot that was blocked and out for a corner. There was a shout for a penalty for Columbus that was not given. And despite the fact that the shots were 1-0 in favor of Columbus 15 minutes in, it was all Crew in the first 15 minutes. I mean, Nancy Ball was just clearly overwhelming this LAFC defense. The wave after wave of pressure that this LAFC defense has to deal with. I mean, if it wasn't for some last-ditch kind of defending that we saw LAFC did in the first 15 minutes, it could have been easily 1 or 2-0 just 15 minutes into this MLS Cup. The possession also set the story too. 66 to 34 in favor of the Columbus Crew. In the 16th minute, they had their second shot of the game when Maria would head it wide in the back post, and then Cujo just flashed it wide from long range. I mean, he did not miss by much in terms of that shot. Maria then had another chance. This time he puts it high from long range in the 25th minute. There was no doubt Columbus was knocking on the door, but the problem is that can they take one of these chances? Because so far, yes, they have had some close chances with no shot on goal. Maxime Crepeau hasn't had to make a save up to this point. In the 27th minute, Rossi would hit it into the side netting in the near post, but then in the 31st minute, the pressure finally took a toll on this LAFC team as a penalty was given to Columbus after Palacio handball in the box. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be one point that is gonna largely overshadow because I think everybody except the fact that Columbus thoroughly deserved to win this MLS Cup. But you could argue this was a bit of a controversial moment too because yeah, when you look on the replay, it definitely looked like Palacio. He did handball this one, but the ball kind of hit his shoulder before it deflect off his hand. Now, obviously, there's always this discussion of what exactly is handball in MLS because there's been a lot of different interpretation of what exactly handball is in MLS and in general in terms of the sports too, because I've seen other leagues that they have different interpretation with handball, and that I know the IFAB has mentioned exactly what handball is and the specific rule by it, but it feels like MLS is going differently in terms of how the world determine what is handball or not. But I will say that if indeed that one hits Palacio's shoulder and then it hits his hands like that, even though his hands was in an outstretched position, that would have been an incredibly harsh penalty to give, and especially in an MLS Cup like this, I wouldn't have given that as a penalty. I mean, they did briefly check VAR to see whether or not if that, of course, is the case. And I guess maybe you could also argue, like if you're a Columbus fan, you could argue that well, maybe it's not clear and obvious, and that is a good argument too, because you if you're gonna overturn a call by VAR, especially in this type of game, it has to be clear and obvious. And I would say that that's kind of on the borderline of what I would say that is clear and obvious. And then you can also have some fans, especially Vancouver Whitecaps fans, that will say, yeah, that's a retribution for when we got screwed over by LAFC in that game two of the first round because as the old saying goes, VAR taken, VAR given, or actually it's the other way around. It's VAR given, VAR taken for LAFC. So yeah, penalty was given. Cucho steps up to takes the penalty. Coming into this game, he was 10 for 10 in terms of converting a penalty, and it's not surprised to see why he's 10 for 10 because he absolutely put this one in the perfect spot on the left side of the corner. I think Crepeau dived the wrong way there. Even if he dived the right way, there was no chance Maxime Crepeau was saving that one. So yeah, that gave the Crew a 1-0 lead, and then it didn't take long for them to make it 2-0. As Yao Yoboa would score from Amundsen to make it 2-0 in favor of the Columbus Crew. So in the preview, I talked about who exactly is the unsung hero in this one. I gotta say, it's gotta be both Yoboa and Amundsen. I mean, both of them play really well in this one, and it's kind of a shame the fact that they didn't get MVP in terms of this game. I'll of course mention who of course won the MVP in terms of this game, but both of those guys were really good. And again, both of those guys, you wouldn't think that they were going to be the guy that will shine the brightest for the Columbus Crew, especially for Yao Boa too. I mean, for a guy that has been regularly coming off the bench for Wilfred Nancy's side, you would not expect him to be scoring a crucial goal for the Crew in an MLS Cup. But here he is, just a great goal here, and even a perfect ball for Multi Amundsen. I mean, Multi Amundsen basically hit a Kevin De Bruyne-esque kind of ball to put Yaboa through, and just kind of a vintage Columbus Crew goal and vintage Nancy ball goal that we've seen this season. And I also wrote the weather in Columbus pretty much sums up how the Crew was playing. They were pouring it on. I mean, up to this point, the rain was definitely started to fall, and the Crew seems like they enjoyed it because they were pouring it on. LAFC was just getting absolutely run out of the building. And again, the overwhelming pressure that they had to deal with in the first half, I mean, it just kind of started to take a toll on this team. In the 40th minute, Hollinshead did try to respond, but he puts it wide before Morello would puts one right to Schulte in the 45th minute. And then in the third minute of stoppage time, Oliveira actually had a cross that was deflected off of Camacho, and it almost ends up into the back of net. I mean, that was just inches away from putting it into the back of net. But you can see that there was finally some life for LAFC because this first half was a complete domination by the Columbus Crew. And that, yeah, for LAFC, they came close late in this one to try to get themselves one back heading into the second half. But we do head to halftime with Columbus leading 2-0. And if you're an LAFC fan, I mean, you're glad the fact that first half was over because that was just a nightmare first half for your team to just getting absolutely outplayed like that. But yeah, you were wondering with the way that they have looked like they show some life near the end of the first half. Is that going to carry into the second? Nope, because in the 47th minute, Cucho would hit one right to Crepeau, and then Tillman, just a last-ditch block here after just a dangerous cross coming into this one, and you can see Columbus was picking up where they left off. They were putting the pressure, trying to get that crucial third goal, and it could have been 3-0 if it wasn't for Palacio clear Yeboah shot off the line there, and I immediately wrote LAFC's on life support in this game. Like they were clearly on the ropes in this one. A third goal, I think, would just pretty much killed off LAFC in this one, and you kind of just had a sense that that third was going to be coming for the Columbus Crew. But in the 56th minute, Vela did hit one right to Schulte, and that came of a turnover. I wrote that's the first shot on goal for LAFC. That's actually not true because the first shot on goal was actually Murillo shot that puts right to Schulte. But it really felt like that was really the first big opportunity that was created by an LAFC player, and especially from Carlos Vela. Notice I didn't write Denise Bawanga Nate up to this point. He had a really quiet game, at least for the first 60 minutes in this game. But yeah, that was a big opportunity for Carlos Vela. And again, Columbus giving the ball away in their own half, committing a WTF turnover. What did I say in the preview? They cannot afford to give the ball over cheaply like they did in that and expect to not get punished. And they are very lucky that they got away with that one there. I mean, if this was Carlos Vela from a couple of years ago, that one's in the back off the net. But there was no doubt that as we hit minute 60, LAFC finally started to have possession to build on. I mean, up to this point, they just had they couldn't control any possession whatsoever. Partially because Giordano did try to play on the transition and hit Columbus on the transition and sit back, but also just partially because Columbus have just completely overwhelmed LAFC, and that LAFC just have no outlet ball to try and hit on the other end on the transition. But they started to finally get some possession and have something to build to play, but it's already the 60th minute in this game, and they're down 2-0 in this MLS Cup. And then the 62nd minute, Bawanga finally had his first big opportunity of this MLS Cup, but he puts it high on the volley there. There was then a shout for a penalty for Columbus not given in the 70th minute. Tucho almost made it 3 nothing, but he flashed it wide from long range. I mean, besides the penalty that he scored in this one, Cucho Hernandez could have easily had two goals and could have scored in open play. But instead, in the 74th minute, LAFC got one back, and guess who? It's Denise Bawanga. Because of course it's Bawanga. It has to be the Golden Boot winner getting a goal in MLS Cup, and he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Columbus Crew. And guess what? It came all of the turnover from the Columbus Crew. So yeah, when you basically commit one bad turnover against LAFC and you got away with it, yeah, you're considered very lucky. But if you do the same thing again, yeah, you're gonna get punished. And yeah, the Crew got punished in terms of committing a bad turnover in their own end. Originally Patrick Schulte actually made a big save here, but Bawanga just able to get that one off the rebound. And while the LAFC fans were celebrating, while the free 252 was going absolutely nuts in this one, you can instantly hear the tension and a pin drop inside lower.com field, because I'm pretty sure those Crew fans have seen this story before. This has been a problem for the Columbus Crew really for the past two seasons, where they just have such a tough time in terms of holding on to leads. And with the way that, yeah, with this game being 2-1 and knowing LAFC has that ability to come back, it feels like here we go again. It feels like they're about to feel what Cincinnati felt with their team in the last game and blowing a 2-0 lead. And to make matters worse, Schulte actually did went down after he made a great save here. Actually made a save with his head there. But fortunately, he was able to stay into this game, and he actually was hyped up. Now, I'm not sure if that's mainly because of the adrenaline, because it definitely looked like he might have had a concussion there, but he was hyped up. He was pumping up the home crowd, trying to make them the 12 man here again, trying to push the Crew to an MLS Cup win. And in the 79th minute, Cucho had another opportunity, but his shot was deflected and goes wide. And then Rossi hits a shot from point blank range, and that was a big miss for Diego Rossi. That's one that he would absolutely want to have back, and that's also one that, I mean, will these missed chances come back to haunt the Columbus Crew? Because the longer this stay at one goal, the more nervous and the more tension you gotta say that these Columbus Crew players and the coaching staff and even the fans are feeling about their team. And it also doesn't help that there would be 7 minutes of stoppage time that was handed, because Patrick Schulte was down for quite a while, and you just feel like LAFC, they have the momentum. They were trying to push for a late winner. So in the third minute of stoppage time, there was a huge shout for a penalty for Columbus, as they feel like Ramirez and Molino was brought down in the box. First of all, the Christian Ramirez foul, that was actually outside the box, so that's probably the reason why they didn't look at it. I think that should have been a foul, but because of the fact it was outside the box, VAR is never going to go back on a call that the referee are going to say that there's no foul happened outside the box. Now the Molino one, it's questionable. I mean, I think it's kind of a more of a shoulder to shoulder challenge between him and Palencia, but nevertheless, the Crew fans feel like that should have been a penalty. And again, up to this point, I think in maybe a regular season game, you could say that they could look at that and basically said that that could potentially be a penalty. I think at that moment it's the right call not to call a penalty. You don't want to have a situation where you're about to have a great finish in this MLS Cup and it's going to be ruined because we have to go to VAR and basically see whether or not if that's a penalty. I mean, there's that old saying that the referee tend to swallow the whistle when the biggest occasion happen, and in this game, the biggest occasion of the season in MLS Cup, yeah, you're not gonna get those 50-50 calls in your favor very often. But that being said, in the end, Columbus were able to hold on because LAFC didn't really provide too much chances late in this one, and yeah, like I said, the Columbus Crew they win this 2-1, and they win their second MLS Cup in the last 4 seasons, their third MLS Cup after winning it in 2008, and then in the COVID shortened season in 2020, and now winning it in 2023. And again, when you look at this game, they thoroughly deserve it. As I mentioned before, throughout this playoff, they've been the better team pretty much every single game. The only game I can think of the Columbus Crew wasn't the better team was Game 2 against Atlanta United when they lost 4-2 in that one, because when you look at all the other games that they have played, even in the conference semifinal and the conference final, they were by far the better team. And what Wilfred Nancy has done to this team and the belief that he has in the system clearly worked out. Because as much as I know there are some skepticism, the fact that with that kind of high octane kind of style, usually that doesn't quite work out in the playoffs because the playoffs is different. Wilfred Nancy basically just laughed and basically showed them an MLS Cup and an MLS ring because of it. Because yeah, I mean the Columbus Crew truly dominate their opposition throughout this playoffs, and well they deserve to win an MLS Cup. But the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 11 that LAFC had. Again, the shots were a little bit closer to the end, but that's mainly because LAFC kind of finally woke up in the last 30 minutes of this one. Both teams had 5 shots on goal, 6 shots off target for the 4 that LAFC had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that LAFC has in this game. And like I said, congratulations to the Columbus Crew of winning MLS Cup 2023. But for LAFC, I mean, I know this is going to be painful because this is now the third straight final that they have lost this season. In fact, this is the first time we have ever seen an MLS team losing 3 different finals in 3 different competition. But if you ask me, this is probably the least painful final loss that they have out of the 3 that they have, because I think coming into this game, it was pretty clear that Columbus was the favorites coming into this. They're playing at home. They're definitely the better team. And especially, I even said it before, how even coming into this playoffs, whoever wins the Eastern Conference most likely is going to win MLS Cup, because it is pretty clear the East is much stronger than the West this season, and it kind of shown in this game. I mean, Columbus just overwhelmed LAFC, and it's also just kind of an I mean, it's not because LAFC is bad this year, but it's also kind of an indictment of how good teams in the Eastern Conference is compared to the West, that has just been more of a wild west and more of just kind of a conference where nobody really tends to be good throughout out the season. But again, like I said, for LAFC, I think their fans will accept the fact that they just got beaten by a better team. It happens, but it also doesn't help the fact that in a season where they had their chances to win 6 trophies, they won none of them. They went 0 for 6 out of that, and not to mention losing in 3 finals. And that, again, that narrative of them choking in big games, I mean, you could say that could still be there. I mean, I know LAFC fans will argue, well, they got it done in 2022, but there's still going to be some naysayer that's going to say, well, yeah, they got it done, but if it wasn't for a Gareth Bale miracle header, they probably would have lost that. And I even said before that if it wasn't for that moment, we could be talking about a legacy of failure that LAFC has had in terms of not being able to show up in these big games and so forth. But yeah, like I said, there you have it. That is pretty much in terms of this video. And now with the season is finished, it's time for me to kind of make some videos related to post 2023 MLS season, and that starts with the emotion index that I'm gonna make, and then of course I'll do a video talking about some of the surprises, some of the headlines, and then of course back to doing 2 news of the week episode per week, because this is when the off season began, and the off season is about to get crazy, and especially with the way that what's kind of interesting about this off season, there's no expansion draft to look forward to. I mean, it feels like every single season we always talk about an expansion team coming in. There's none this year. There will be in 2025, but there's none for this year. And that, I think the most exciting thing that I'm looking forward to, at least in these next couple of weeks, is when the schedule does release for the 2024 season. But until then, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this MLS Cup? Again, congratulations to the Columbus Crew of winning MLS Cup 2023 and become the champion of the 2023 MLS season. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.